Welcome to Health Matters, Rogers viewers. This is the mental wellness show, Changing Steps, and this show focuses on mental wellness throughout our lifespans. First of all, right off the top, I'm going to say thank you to our producer, Rye Howitt, and we have Sharon Charles in the studio volunteering on camera. And without Rogers Television providing studio time and volunteers and giving community members like myself the opportunity to share topics that are of interest to you, this show wouldn't happen. So I'm really, really excited about today because we're very blessed to have the president of Doula Canada, Shaunacy King, who's going to join us in a few moments. But before she does, I just want to share some artwork from an amazing artist out of Gravenhurst, Ontario, and her name is Amanda Grievett, and I hope I pronounced her surname properly. And Amanda focuses her work on showing the different stages of pregnancy, delivery, and post-delivery with mothers and children. And her artwork is just phenomenal. You can buy her work on Etsy, and I found her in collaboration with Doula Canada because I'm taking that course and really excited about all that we learned there. But Amanda's work, as you can see, it's just so poignant of mothers and children. And I've said on previous shows that I'm also a foster parent, and sometimes, the children that we've had over the years, they don't have such, their experience in terms of mothers and children has been sometimes challenging. So their views of women sometimes isn't all that positive. So when I found this work, I said to her, I want to get a card. She sells prints that are just lovely, but I purchased the cards. And I said, I want to have these photos in my home so that we can, even though my children who don't have contact with their birth mothers, we can still underscore and honor that they, love them and gave birth to them. And though they weren't able to look after them, probably think of them daily. And it's just, the artwork's really moving. So if you're interested in her work, if you go to Etsy, you can find examples of all of her work. It's just really wonderful. So as I said today, we're meeting with Shaunacy King, and the topic today is postpartum depression. And postpartum depression, wasn't even I've had my own mother said to me, I had postpartum depression really badly with my first two children. There was 9 of us, and she said, and no one really understood. And when you're a new mother, you're feeling so often not competent in being a mother, and you feel judged sometimes by other people. And then to add depression to the mix and feel like, well, who can I reach out to? Who can I talk to? It makes it really challenging to find out where to get supports, let alone know what you have. So it's a really important topic when we're looking at depression throughout the mental health wellness throughout the lifespan. So we're gonna bring Shaunacy King in. Now, Shaunacy was gonna join us in the studio today, but because she's the wonderful doula that she is, she has a mom who's going to be calling her at any point. So we hope to get through this interview. Welcome, Shaunacy. If maybe you could introduce yourself and let us know, how did you become a doula, and how did that lead you to become the director and the program? Sorry, I called you the president before. You're the director and program coordinator of Doula Training Canada.
Yeah, so I came about being a doula in sort of an unusual way. I was actually doing my doctorate in history, and I woke up one day living in downtown Toronto and said to my now husband, we should really move to Peterborough and start a baby store. And he sort of looked at me and rolled his eyes and said, yeah, that's cool. We know nothing about babies. And so I was like, well, we should probably do that too. So we did. We took the leap of faith. We started a business, and part of that business was a studio where we had doulas and childbirth educators working with us to serve the community of Peterborough, Ontario. And after some time, the doulas moved away that we were working with, and there was a void, and I decided that I was going to fill that void. And so I took a certification program with the Healing Arts Learning Organization, and never looked back. And I've been a full-time doula since, and a childbirth educator, and I have been working in the Peterborough area primarily. I've now gone to hundreds of births over the course of being a doula. And a part of my becoming the director of Doula Training Canada was I became an instructor for the Healing Arts Learning Organization, and over some time the then director decided she wanted to step down, and I stepped up. And so I sort of had this line of movement forward to this position, and I'm so honored to be supporting families still, but also students coast to coast from BC to Newfoundland now who are becoming doulas to serve their communities.
Could you explain for our audience, well, first of all, that story is just amazing, but second of all, could you explain to our audience what is a doula? Because I think folks know about a midwife, but there's a difference between doulas and midwives, and when you have a birth team, a doula plays a very different role than the OBGYN or the midwife.
Absolutely. So a doula is a primary support person. They're a non-clinical support person, meaning that they're not doing any clinical tasks, whether that be in pregnancy, labor, delivery, or in the natal period. And so we're sort of, the best way I like to describe it is we're sort of like a personal support worker for new families. As a personal support worker goes into homes and is developing relationships with, perhaps the elderly or someone who's going through an illness, a doula goes into a client's home and they support the client through their, experiences of expecting a child, welcoming a child, and then, transitioning to raising a child. So, we are sort of Anne Douglas, the Canadian author, she calls us the fairy godmothers of the birthing world in a number of ways.
Well, I have to share with our audience when I became interested in this program because I'm doing my doctorate work on play therapy with senior citizens, and then what come with over 55 up to senior citizens, and what shows up are those big events in people's lives that that they've experienced and they're holding on to, in that whole narrative. So I then started focusing on all those big events, and what we all share in terms of humanity is we are birthed and we die. And then it's all that other stuff that comes in between. So I contacted Shaunacy and said, I'd really be interested in joining this program. How do I access the information? So if one of our viewers today said, wow, that sounds really interesting, I want to get more information, they could go to the website. And then when they go to the website, they would find information about courses. And maybe can you chat a little bit about, you wouldn't just attend a course, there's a whole long certifying process. So what would that entail?
Yeah, so you can find all the information at doulatraining.ca, and the program itself has been around since 2001. Obviously, we're updating information all the time, but Doula Training in Canada has been around since 2001. It was formerly known as the Healing Arts Learning Organization, right. And we consider ourselves, we're not a college, but we consider ourselves withholding collegiate standards for certification for doulas. There's no at the time regulation for our profession. Right. So you do not need to have a college diploma or degree from a university to be a doula. That being said, we are putting precedent on creating the foundations for strong knowledge and support systems in the program. And we have in-class trainings. We have assignments and projects. There is readings required, and we do have examinations. And a part of that, so that's a lot of the theoretical components of the program. And then we have the practical components, which is actually going into the community, meeting with community networking partners, building your business, and supporting families. And so our doulas are walking out of the program with, a great foundation of knowledge, a huge family of support with other doulas peer networked across the country, and also that practical hands-on experience where they feel more confident then to go off and support other families because they've had those initial clients.
So if a family is looking for a doula and they recognize on the doula's card or marketing material that they're affiliated with Doula Canada, there are other doula training programs internationally in the States. I know when I did my own research, but you're the only doula training program that is across Canada, and you spend a lot. I know you spend a lot of time from watching your work visiting doulas in different provinces and networking with government agencies and ministers of health, as well as with the general public, to be kind of educating everyone on the support that doulas can provide, not only a birthing mom, but a family. And not to put you on the spot, but I know from the reading that I've done and some of the research and what Doula Canada puts out, that there are some stats that talk about a decrease in C-sections for families that have doulas.
Yeah, that's correct. So, I mean, there's really two doulas in the program. We have the labor and birth doula program, and then we have postpartum doula program.
Right.
And as far as the labor and birth doula program goes, there has been studies, scientifically proven, even in the last 6 months, that doulas drastically reduce all medical interventions, but specifically they reduce the likelihood of a cesarean by upwards of 45%. So wow. It's quite high. We see a decrease in Pitocin. So the induction drug, we see a decrease in epidural use, decrease in forceps and vacuums, really across the board, with continuous support model of care, which a doula offers. We see overall better birth experiences. And it's not just because we serve families who want a particular type of birth.
Right.
It's not like, doulas only work with people who want natural births. To be honest, most of my births are in hospitals with OB-GYNs, and sometimes with clients who say very forwardly, I would like to have an epidural. Our goal as doulas is really to support the client in how they best want to be supported. And so, by meeting with them prior to going into their experience, we're able to be that peace of mind, that common person. We're not a stranger in their birth experience. We're not a stranger in their postpartum experience. We're someone that they're comfortable with. We're trained in a variety of techniques to increase awareness and comfort in their experiences. And, we're there to work as a member of the team with the doctors and midwives and nurses.
Shaunacy, that's so helpful. So I'm just going to ask you to hold on. We're just going to go to break. And then I would encourage our Rogers viewers, come back, because we're going to ask Shaunacy about postpartum doulas and the support that they can provide moms and families after the baby's born. Okay? Thank you so much. Take care. Welcome, viewers. Please, thank you for coming back to Health Matters. Today's show, Mental Wellness Changing Steps. We're talking with Shaunacy King, who's the director of Doula Canada. And thank you, Shaunacy, for being here today. So I have to tell our viewers, if you were here before the break, Shaunacy talked about, the impact that doulas have on the birthing experience for mom and families, and that a birth doula is a member of the team that can also include a midwife and an OB-GYN, or just a midwife, depending on what the client has arranged. And when I started taking the program, I didn't realize I had my first son, and I had Pitocin and an epidural and vacuum and forceps, and it was not a great experience, but I didn't realize that it could be better, and it was because I didn't have a doula. So learning about what birth can be really speaks to, for me, contributing to the mental wellness of the mother and the parent and child, the mother and child attachment after they leave the birthing experience. And what the reason whether we wanted to have this show today is we also wanted to talk about postpartum depression. And you also have a doula program that for doulas that specialize in that area of care and support for families and moms. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the postpartum doula is someone who works with families usually within the first year of an infant's life. And so they are going into the home of the client, and they are, typically there for a couple of hours, sometimes full days, sometimes they're doing overnight care. And that's really to facilitate, healthy relationship between the parent or parents and the infant, and also to create a support network for those families who, may need an extra set of hands. Having two children of my own, it's the transition to parenthood is overwhelming at times. And in our society, unfortunately, we don't have the systems of support that many mothers, especially, I'll use that term, many mothers who are in the home in the first year of their infants' lives, maybe on maternity leave, don't have. And so a postpartum doula is someone who can come in and they can, be that village for them when there may not be a village there.
What would be some concerns that a doula might have that a mom was experiencing postpartum depression?
Well, the difference is that a postpartum doula, when they're working with a family, they're seeing their clients on a regular basis. And so, we can't all have extraordinary days, and especially when you're sleep deprived and you have an infant who, is really reliant on you, it can be overwhelming at times. Now, right. It's normal to have overwhelming days. It's not normal to have days that are piling on top of each other that you seem like you can't get out from under. And so with a postpartum doula, they would recognize that, this is a pattern, and an unhealthy pattern that is being established, and they would see the signs. So, not wanting to take care of their infant, not wanting to get out of bed, not eating or drinking properly, crying nonstop, feeling overly tired all of the time, right. Even when they've had some rest, really lethargy. There's a number of signs. And to the untrained eye, it can often be brushed off as, well, you have a newborn and you're just tired and this is normal. Right. But the fact of the matter is, for 15 to 20% of women in this country, it's not normal. This is their life, and they don't know where to go for help.
Yeah.
So.
And as a child psychotherapist, I would say that when I do histories with kids and when I'm looking at parent-child attachment, sometimes I can go back and the mom can identify, bonding, having the energy and the motivation to bond with my baby was really challenging because I just was so exhausted all the time, or I felt so isolated, and then I didn't feel like I was being a very good parent, and I really felt like I don't know what to do with this little person that's come home. And then combine that with, in this show and previous episodes, we've talked about what does it take to be building a healthy community. And there's mm-hmm. so many more families that are so isolated. It's not, there's some families that are blessed to have, 2 or 3 generations living in the home. My guest last week, who Dr. Mary Ventrella talked about in her births, she had 15 to 25 people in the room. And mm-hmm. I said to her, first I was like, that's a lot of people. And then second, I said, what an amazing, in terms of resiliency, act of belonging. Like, you belong in our family, and we're going to hold you and protect you and keep you safe and support you, not just for the child, but the mother. But you see in your work probably many moms who maybe don't have extended family around and don't have support. And if they didn't have a doula, they might be even more isolated. So it's such an important role.
I would argue that in Canada, that's more the rule than the rule of thumb, right? Like that, people have their families maybe in their communities, but most grandparents are still working, right? And so, they're at work and you're at home with this infant, and your partner's at work and your friends may be at work, or, maybe you're lucky enough to have friends who have children who are young and are at home as well, but you're not seeing them every day. And, in my own experience and with working with clients, it can be very isolating, and it's very monotonous having a newborn. It's, they eat, they sleep, they wake up, you feed them, they do that again. And so you can get, people can get stuck in these patterns and feel very lonely about the journey of parenthood. And it's not what our expectation is going into it. We think, it's rainbows and unicorns, like, oh my gosh, I'm having a baby. This is the most amazing thing in my life. And the fact of the matter is it's hard. And for some people, it's even harder because they might already have a predisposition to an anxiety or depression disorder. Right. And, if it's not discussed openly with their family or their physician, then they're sitting there lonely, just stewing over this. And it can lead to much more severe diagnoses like postpartum psychosis, which is very rare. 1 in 1,000, but still very, very severe.
Yeah. And in terms of the postpartum depression, so if I'm a postpartum doula and I'm going into a family home and I'm seeing with the mom that she might be showing some symptoms of postpartum depression, what would be the steps that I would take to support her and the family?
Well, postpartum doulas, again, are non-clinical, but, they have that resource base and that knowledge to, notice the initial signs and then to say, hey, here are some options. Right. People you could chat with. Here's community partners, here's counselors, here's different organizations. And so, directing the client towards someone who has that specialized help, who can, properly assess whether this is postpartum depression or some other postpartum mood disorder, and then provide the assistance that they need so that they can move forward into enjoying their experience as a parent and, the growing of their infant. But, it's really a matter of educating the family around that person gently, and also educating the person themselves. And I encourage people to do that in the period of their pregnancy, to be chatting about these things in pregnancy. And so that if it happens in the postpartum period, that then, people are already prepared. These are the steps that we were already made aware of so that we can move forward to get the assistance that we need so that we can, move beyond this experience together. Because again, it's not, one person doesn't raise a child, an entire community does.
Well, and that leads me to my next question. As we wind up today, what would you recommend to families and friends of couples that are having babies? What can they do to support that mother and child? What are the things that can, not only in the few days right after the birth, but in weeks following, to be supportive of people in our community that are growing their families?
Well, I think, creating a space where they can get to know their infant, to bond with their infant. The first 6 weeks is such an integral time, and we put so much pressure on people to get up and go and, be back to your normal self. And this is such a sacred time, really, where not only are we getting to know that infant, that new member of a family, but we're also healing. And so, providing the opportunity to come into their home or creating space so that you can go into their home and you can be cooking meals and helping to do some laundry and those sort of tasks. Not so much coming in and being like, I'll hold the baby and you go have a nap, because the baby needs to get to know their parent. But, creating that space where they feel well supported in those tasks so that they don't have the pressure to do them. There's nothing worse than, having a baby and then having a whole bunch of people coming over and feel like you have to entertain them, especially when, you're tired. And those days of tiredness can can pile on top of each other and magnify, and that can lead to, a higher risk of postpartum mood disorders. So just create space and create time for them.
And
call up and say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And we haven't talked about other children, but I mean, another thing that I would add would be providing opportunities for the other older children to feel special, even in light of this new baby joining the family. So doulas, and the only thing we haven't talked about is breastfeeding, because doulas will also help with breastfeeding. So if folks watching us today are interested in finding a doula in their local community, because you train doulas all over Canada, where would you suggest we find a doula before we close today?
Yeah, there's so we have a Find a Doula page on our website, doulatraining.ca, where the alumni and the students of our organization are listed if they'd like to be. A number of provinces also have their associations. So, for example, Ontario has the Association of Ontario Doulas, where people are listed. And so if you type in, doula and your province, something should pop up and there should be a list there. But if you have any difficulty finding anyone, certainly reach out to us and we can find someone. We have hundreds of students and alumni across the country, and we are happy to help place a doula with their preferred family, or their preferred family with their doula.
Oh, great. Shaunacy, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, even in light that you're waiting for a call any minute. We really appreciate your presence in the studio, even if it was virtually. And I know that for our audience, everyone's probably learned something today that they didn't know about supporting families in our community. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Okay. Take care. Have a really wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. So that's a wrap for mental wellness, changing steps. Join us next time, and thank you so much for sharing this part of your day with us. Take care.